Hey everyone, I'm Kathleen. I'm from California. I'm in my 40s.
And I'm Victoria. I'm in my 20s and I'm from Houston, Texas.
And you are getting two different perspectives from two different generations of what life is like when we moved to Spain. And that's
That's
why
why
we're
we're
Spanglish.
Spanglish. That's why we're Spanglish.
So, this podcast idea actually came up a year ago. And at first, it was supposed to be something just funny. And we would always say things like, oh, that's so Spain. And so we started making jokes and we're like, oh, that's why we're Spanglish because we're
The
incorporating
cultural
both.
differences. Yeah.
Correct. However, as time went on and the idea was percolating, I decided more recently, after a conversation with my grandma, to start this podcast to share real life perspectives and what life is truly like when you leave your home country, specifically the United States for us,
Yeah.
and move to Europe and live in Spain. So the other day, I was talking to my grandmother and she had asked me, Kathleen, what is life like in Spain? Every time I talk to her, all I can talk about is how wonderful it is, how happy I am, how much I love my life. And she was like, no, I know all of that. How about tell me something that's hard that I didn't know or wouldn't know? And I said, you know what has been really difficult is the fact that I am Latina. My last name is Gonzalez. And everyone here is absolutely shocked at the fact that I don't speak Spanish. In fact, it's shocking and it's really expected. And I told my grandma that every time I have to hear that, it sometimes like makes me feel bad because I hate that about myself. Like I really wish that I could speak Spanish and I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. And that's when my grandma shared with me that when she was younger, living in California, that they were forbidden to speak Spanish.
Right.
And that's why they raised us girls and my family to not speak Spanish. In fact, it was actually very proper English. And none of us, my mother, my aunts, none of us speak Spanish. Most people in my family don't speak Spanish. And that has been a really big challenge living in Europe because a lot of Europeans don't understand that while we were given the opportunity to move to the United States, my ancestors, right, that moved to the United States, they were given the opportunity to live and to have education and to start businesses and be successful, but it came at the cost. And the cost was giving up their language and their identity.
Yeah, part of their culture.
And I don't think a lot of people know that. How about for you, Victoria?
Well, kind of like you in the sense of like growing up only being in an English speaking household, although my dad, he grew up in a Mexican household in Houston, Texas. Growing up, we only spoke to each other in English, went to a school where we only spoke English, of course. And it was weird because all my life, especially in Houston, Texas, where there's a very big Latino population. And I think a lot of times, maybe sometimes people forget how many Latinos really exist, especially in California and places like Houston. There's a very big Latino population. So it was a bit weird and almost kind of like a loss of identity, especially having a Spanish last name. And we also kind of I've had that experience as well here, getting like, your last name is Spanish, but you don't speak Spanish fluently. Now, I'll say my Spanish has improved a lot since living here in general, and I can operate and live life here in Spanish when need be, but I'm not fluent. So there's still things to work on. But yeah, it's been, growing up in the U.S. like that, not really speaking Spanish. And well, yeah, it's quite interesting. But I know this is something that Kathleen and I kind of really, how do you say, bond over is how we've been able to more discover and be more comfortable in our Latina identity since we've moved here in Barcelona.
Yeah, that's been really, really shocking. So when I lived in California, I honestly didn't really identify as Latina, like not as much as I do now. And I know that sounds crazy, but the truth is that it just wasn't something that I led with, you know. I really latched on to other parts of my identity when it came to my lineage. But the truth is when I moved to Spain and when you moved to Spain, I have really connected with being Latina more than ever. And it's a beautiful thing. And how funny, right? Like I'm living in Spain and with all these beautiful Spanish people. And now I feel more Latina than ever. In fact, I seek out Latinas now. And it's always like, you're Latina. And, they're from Peru or they're from Guadalajara, other parts of Mexico. And it's so wonderful because I've actually realized some of the most beautiful differences between Latino women and Spanish women. Both beautiful in their own rights, but it's just so wonderful to really identify as Latina. And in fact, I'm dating a French man, and I always, with him, I'm like, you realize that I'm Latina? And he calls me his Latina. And I think that is hilarious. There's not anyone in my life that's ever done that. And I'm just really proud of that and really thankful, because what a beautiful thing to connect with my roots deeper. When I left in where I'm from, and I'm in so far away from home, but yet I feel so deeply connected to my roots here.
Right. I think that's really beautiful. Yeah. And it's kind of funny how that happens, because quite literally we've like left home. We're so far from the American continent. And for some way, somehow there, we found ourselves connecting more to our roots here. But also I think it's good to note that like here, especially in Barcelona where we're at, there is a very big Latino population here as well. Although it looks different, like maybe to the Latino community that you've experienced. Well, there in California, and I know for me as well, like coming from Houston, it's different. It looks different there than it does here. But something about moving from home kind of brings you more, motivates you more to become more grounded in your identity. And that's something that it's kind of funny how that happens, because I feel like you don't think that that's going to happen, right? When you come here, you're like, oh, I'm being immersed in the culture here, the local culture, which is also still very much true. But some part of you is like, I want to know more about this. And for me, for example, like being from Houston, there's a lot of like Tejano music there. And I never really listened to much Tejano music when I lived back in Houston or was that much into the scene. But when I moved here after a few months, I found myself listening to all this old school like Tejano music, like in my day to day. And it was a difference that I noticed in myself. I was like, wow, is this me wanting to become closer to what I grew up around?
Yeah. Yep. So we wanted to start this podcast because I'm sure a lot of you have watched a lot of the content of people specifically from the United States that have moved to Spain, and you're hearing about the tapas and the wine and the amazing beaches and the nightlife, which is all
great.
Very true.
Very true.
And very accurate.
And it exists here. It exists here. Yeah.
But the truth is that I wanted to start this podcast with Victoria because I think it's a really important time with the World Cup happening in the United States. I thought it was a really important time to share the real life perspectives of what it's like when you leave your home country, specifically when you leave the United States and you move over to Spain. There's a lot of people online that talk about wanting to make this move and they don't know what to do and what's it like? It's like tapas and wine, but what's the real day-to-day like? Yeah. And I think one thing that you'll really find helpful with this podcast is that we, not only us, but we have friends from all over the world, from Romania, from Peru. Oh my gosh. From
Romania, Peru, Brazil, Chile,
Poland. And we're going to have them all on here to talk about their real life experiences. So one thing that may shock you all is that I think in the United States, we're given the story that like, people don't like us. That is just not true. When you meet other people from the United States that move to Europe, it's like a different kind of American, and all of the Europeans see it. It's like, oh, you guys look cool Americans. And there's no shame on that. I think all Americans are cool, right? I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about the World Cup is now we're seeing all these Europeans experience the United States and they're like, wow, like they discovered ranch dressing, right? Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a good thing.
TSA approved ranch dressing at that. Now they have them in the airports. They're selling Hidden Valley Ranch.
Ranch is going to pop off here in Europe. I can guarantee you that.
They need to start their branch here in Europe, actually, I think.
Hidden Ranch is now going global.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, so I think it's just, it's been such a great time. It's been so awesome to see all the Europeans like loving the United States, seeing the Germans in like the bars in Texas and, really experiencing it and feeling like they had been lied to. Well, we've all been lied to, guys. Like, they're telling you not to come here. We're not to go there. They're not to go there.
Etc.
And the truth is it's all beautiful and we are all one. And the thing that links us all together is that we're all human. And I don't think there's a better time than to have this conversation than now. Yeah. So thank you, World Cup.
Shout out to the World Cup.
Woo, FIFA. Yeah. So not really, just kidding. No, but really, that today it's July 19th, and today
July
we're about
19th.
to watch the Argentina and Spain game.
Yeah.
Viva España!
Let's
So let's go Spain! But yeah, it's
Bueno.
a really, really great time, and I'm just thankful for everyone that's listening to us and watching this on YouTube, because I think that you're going to take a lot from these conversations.
Yeah.
So let's get real.
Let's get real with it.
All right, I'll start with the positive, okay?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, listen. Barcelona, no doubt, because that's where we live. Barcelona is seen as like the number one hotspot. It's such a party place. There's so much energy here. It's like such
tech, business many things happening
right
all the time. Yeah,
it's booming right now. But the truth is that Barcelona is actually a very grounded, very spiritual place. Mm-hmm. The energy here is magnetic, and when you're living here, we've been here for 2 years.
2 years.
But
now.
When you're here outside of the summer months, like, the January, December, February, March,
the off season,
you're really experiencing true life. And at times I felt like, wow, like it's just so peaceful and it's so different. Granted, you can always go dancing every single night of the week, which is wonderful.
Want to, yeah, right. For sure.
But the truth is that it is a very spiritual place. And there's just something about moving to Barcelona that has changed myself and you in ways that I don't think I ever even imagined. Yeah. One thing that really shocked me was when I moved here in 2024, I went through a huge, I don't even know what I would call this. A soul awakening? I completely healed myself from a lot of things that I was harboring. And I think the reason why that happened was because you are alone. Yeah. I will never forget my first 3 weeks in Spain. Yeah. I remember thinking like, I cannot believe I did this. Like, I remember crying in my bed because at that point I didn't really have any friends. I mean, I moved here, I didn't know anybody. And I found myself working in my apartment, going to the gym, and then being gone for 2 hours a day, then coming home and just being home and being by myself. And there was at one point I was really scared because I was like, I can't believe I did this and I can't just go move back right now. And I wanted to those first 3 weeks. I really did. I was like, I'm just doing the same thing I was doing in San Diego when I was living there. I'm just working from my apartment and like going to the gym and then coming home and that was it. Yeah. And that 3 weeks really, really opened my eyes, and I forced myself to be uncomfortable. And I started joining the meetup groups, and I met a group of people, and that kind of started a group of girls, and it kind of started my journey here in Spain. And I'm just really thankful that I did that. In fact, because I had this group of friends in the beginning of my time here, and by the way, everyone leaves. Like half of them don't even live here anymore. Yeah, so that's also a very
transient. I think that's a good point to note because Barcelona, very international and very transient city. Yeah, a lot of people are here for a few years and then they leave. So this revolving door of like friends, I think, is a reality that a lot of people experience.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's that's just kind of part of it. But then the great thing about that, even though they've all left, is that it gave me the confidence to just start kind of moving on my own. So I started making friends wherever I went, talking to more people. The more I opened myself up and bettered myself and felt more confident in my skin. Yeah. And again, connecting with my Latino roots and really like owning that and bringing that to the people that I meet from all over the world. I found myself at the sailing.
The America's Cup. That was happening when we had both just moved here.
So I had moved in June of 2024 and Victoria moved in September.
It was the end of August.
Okay,
end of August 2024.
So I went to America's Cup with some random person I had met, and it was wonderful. And Aria here is actually the reason why we met. We were at Norskin, which is a beautiful like co-working space. They have amazing events there. And we were watching the America's Cup, which is a sailing competition. It's so amazing. Highly recommend it if you're ever in Barcelona during that time. But yeah, I had seen Aria love dogs, and I was like, "Oh, can I pet your dog?"
Yeah,
and
then she just walked over.
Yeah, she just walked over, and we immediately became friends. And that specific day, we ended up going to Time Out Market, had dinner, and like
everything. Yeah, we spent the whole day together. I think after because we left Norskin, and then we went to this other little thing that they were having for the America's Cup, and then we went to dinner. But yeah,
It was
talked
instant.
And yeah.
It was instant. And it's so nice because you think that you moved to Spain, you want to make friends with all the Spanish people. It's not so easy, you know? Like they warm up, they need to warm up to you, especially Catalans, right? Like it's just a different culture. Again, all beautiful. There's not really much I can say negative, and I know a lot of people might, beg to differ on that. But the truth is that it just takes time. Yeah. I started taking Pilates and yoga classes all in Spanish, and that's been wonderful because I live in Elborn and I take classes in Ejemplo. So I 30-minute walk away from me or a metro ride. And I really kind of just felt more comfortable bouncing around the city and leaving my bubble. And it's inspiring to think that I'm doing that because it's just not like that in the United States. You know, when I was living in California, I was honestly working from home, hanging out with my same friends. Yeah. I kind of had this routine and that's natural.
You had that whole social structure that already existed at home that you never had to think about creating once you moved here.
Right. Almost. And you have to. It takes a lot of effort. And it is very uncomfortable. It is. It's not easy, guys. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want to make this move. And the first thing I'll tell you is that you should absolutely do it. If there's any part of your soul that feels called to just do it, absolutely do it. And don't look at it as leaving behind your family and friends.
Yeah.
You're really opening a pathway for them to experience life in Europe through you. And when they come to visit you, they get to actually visit Spain.
It might not have even caught on the microphone.
True. It's fine.
You're probably fine.
Okay. Something that you don't realize is that it just makes all the difference when you're willing to just be uncomfortable for a little bit. And like I said, you opened up doors for your family and friends. And some of the hardest things about living here has been, honestly, besides especially the language, that's difficult. I recently actually just changed health insurance plans because I was told that there was more English speakers. And that is not true. People will come and visit here and you can probably get by with English. A lot of people speak English here. That's not a problem. However, there are a lot of people, especially doctors, dentists, that don't speak any Spanish. Don't speak any English. And you have to navigate your health and wellness not speaking the same language. So thank goodness for translators, right?
Yeah, thank God we live in the age of AI and translators, and Deeple's really good.
So the healthcare system, it's not easy. And there's been a lot of moments where I felt really helpless, right? Because you need to get in to see a doctor. No one could speak English.
Yeah.
You can't just walk down there. It's really
there's a system and a process here that you kind of have to learn. And it can be difficult if it's something that you're not used to, right?
Exactly. So, but I will say the first year was really difficult for me. Just again, trying to create my life here, my identifying who is Kathleen in Spain, and making true friends. That has been a beautiful thing about now. I can say finally 2 years here. I just celebrated 2 years on June 26th, 2026. And I finally feel like I have solid friends. I know I have friends now that I can call if something happened, they would be there for me. And that's
emergency contacts.
Right. Exactly.
The emergency contacts. Yeah.
So it's key, but it happens, and I think it's just really worth it. I know a lot of people. One question I get a lot is always about taxes. Let's talk about taxes. Look, you pay a happiness tax.
Happiness tax, okay.
But the truth is, it's worth it. I'm an entrepreneur. I started my own company, my PR agency, Elevated Public Relations, back in 2019, and I started that company not even knowing that it was going to lead me to where I am today. But as I started to develop the business in the way that I wanted to, I decided to start traveling by continent. I was living in London for a few months, and then I'd come to Barcelona, and then I'd go back home. I was subletting my apartment back home all those months, and it was fine doing that. But then finally in 2023, when I was leaving Barcelona, I decided, no, I'm really happy here. I really need to do it. I need to just make the move. Yeah. And it was the best thing I ever did. Yeah. We're both on the digital nomad visa.
Yeah, I came here on the student visa teaching English. And and I was teaching English at a Catalan school.
Actually, what was that like, Victoria? Because I'm sure a lot of people want to teach English. Like, you can move here and teach English. Think about this.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think for me that was like the entryway, and it's kind of funny because I had the same realization in 2023 as well when I was visiting here, and I was like, okay, I don't want to visit here no more. I want to live here. I want to make the move here and begin doing that. And for me, that ended up being the route of being an English teacher here at a school here in Barcelona, and it was a Catalan school. And so that was also quite an interesting experience because I was immediately immersed into like the Catalan culture, and that was really like a very cool, I think, unique experience, maybe that a lot of people don't typically have, especially if you're moving here on a digital nomad visa, right? Because you have your business you have to uphold, and you have to do all your business things. And then for me, like I was like, although I was an English teacher and my job was to teach speaking English to the students, the communication in the school was all Catalan. And so all of a sudden, like overnight, I'm just seeing all these different Catalan words, and I'm hearing all these words as well. And you start to learn and you pick it up. And I like to joke around with people that I speak Catalanol, which is, a mix of Catalan and Castellano, because as we were saying earlier, my Spanish is not fluent, but learning Spanish as well, but also like being exposed to Catalan. And you have Catalanol, basically, is what that is.
And I'm Spanglish. I speak Spanglish.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it was a really cool experience. And I think, if anyone wants to pursue there's many routes. I think at the end of the day, the important part to know here is that there's not just one way to move here. It's really just a matter of which avenue you want to go down. It's not, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. Yeah, there's things you have to do, but there's many avenues and routes you can take to make your move here possible. And I also want to note that for myself, I didn't know any, I don't come from a family like where we have family members here, or that I knew anyone that had lived here before. I'm a first generation college graduate in my family. I don't come from money or lots of means or anything, but I saw an opportunity and I just wanted to like go for it, Mm-hmm. And there's certain people that, of course, like in our lives that I think each inspired us to like make this move, mm-hmm. and that made impressions on us. But it wasn't like, that I came here ever like to Europe growing up. I came here for the first time whenever I was studying abroad for a college program. And but I don't know, for you as well, no? Like you didn't grow up going like traveling to Europe or doing vacations here, did you?
Never. Yeah. My first time in Europe was in 2021. And it was through my business. My client, she had a book tour in London. Mm-hmm. And when my clients want me to travel with them, they typically cover the travel. And so I just invoiced them for a one-way ticket. And that's when I decided I was going to live in London for 4 months and then make my way over to Spain. And that was such a great experience because I always was attracted to London. I thought London would be the easiest, right? It's English speaking. Yeah. But let me tell you, the weather is not great. And that's probably what everyone will say. I love London, by the way. And I love all of my friends from London. I love that I was living in Chelsea. Mm-hmm. I loved my experience.
It's a really nice area, right?
It's very nice. Yeah, they say posh. Yeah, very posh area. Very posh area. But I loved it. And it was great. And I'm glad I did it because I was able to kind of get the difference. And it was better for me, even though I didn't speak the language in Spain, I just felt more connected to it. I mean, I think we all feel that way. Most people that move here, they're like, my soul just wants to be here. Yeah. And that really that's the truth. And I just think that anybody who wants to, maybe travel here and stay here for a month, or you can actually travel to Spain for 90 days, no taxes. You can do it on a travel visa. Yeah. Highly recommend doing that. If you're considering this move, just come for 3 months, sublet your apartment like I did, and just do it. and it will be the greatest thing that you ever did, because you'll be able to really have that perspective. It is scary.
Yeah.
I will be honest. When I left the United States in 2024, I held on to my apartment. I subletted my apartment for 1 year, and I will never forget in May of 2025. Do you remember how upset I was?
Yeah,
I was like, why did I not just... Because I had to go back to the United States. This is actually a really funny story. I went back to I went back to California. Yeah. The United States of California. And
Love that.
And I had to... the girl was moving out of my apartment, and I had 7 days on my lease, and I stayed in my apartment. Me, the one living in Spain, stayed in my apartment, and it was the most surreal experience, because it was like I was washing away this old version of me that just didn't exist anymore. And I was driving my car and going to my gym, and like it was just so interesting to step back into my life for 7 days. But I sold everything, actually, to my cousin who's going to university in La Jolla, in San Diego. And I sold everything for like $1,000. And she just took everything, plants, I mean, everything. It was a beautiful kind of synergy. It was like the gift from the universe, right? Because selling your stuff to like a bunch of different people and dealing with that is just a nightmare.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but I had everything pretty much gone. The big things I sold my huge TV to like someone else, and it was just wonderful. Everything just was beautiful, and I'll never forget my walking around my apartment empty and just crying, just so joyful, like, wow, like I cannot believe I did this, because that apartment, and I don't know if you know this, but I loved that apartment. My friends from California will know this. I had dreams that I left that apartment, nightmares that I left that apartment, and I was devastated. Yeah. And to be able to have that much of a attachment to something and then fully detach, it's an incredible feeling. And I follow a lot of people online, like detachment theories and whatnot, and how important that is. But that apartment was something that I never thought I was going to feel okay with detaching from. But it was beautiful. I have photos I will share. But it was very cool, and I'm very thankful. So
you had really built something. You had this wonderful apartment that you really loved in California. Like before you had moved here, you had this like life that these things that you had achieved for yourself that you were like really proud of. And it was like bittersweet too.
It was. And I sold everything. I sold all my furniture, plants, everything, my car. And it's a complete, beautiful like rebirth. And I will never regret it. And I just really think that if somebody has a desire to do it, the best thing you're going to do for your soul is to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. For me, it was a little different. Being in my 20s, I didn't have quite like an established, I mean, like I had routines and things like that, but I didn't have like my fate, like this beautiful apartment. I was actually living with my parents for some time after a breakup. So I had lived with my parents for like a year before like moving out here. But I just knew I had always wanted to move here after I studied abroad in 2018 here in Barcelona. And I just found myself in a moment in life where I was like, yeah, like this is the time. Now is the time. I'm going to do the things that I need to do. I'm going to organize myself and make sure that I'm doing all the things that I need to do to make sure that this move happens. I think, I mean, for me, it was just, I mean, between getting myself together and Aria and bringing a dog over here, which really it's actually not as hard as maybe some people might think. It's actually not as difficult. It was fine doing that. But yeah, I think, I left and I never looked back, because I haven't. You visited home since moving here. Right. I have not, which is fine. But I do keep like a lot of regular contact with like friends and things like this, and like some family. But wow, yeah. And I did, one of the big things that I did have to sell, I remember, was my car. Shout out to her, my car. It was my first car, and I had to sell her.
What kind of car was it?
Girl. It was a 2008 white Toyota Corolla.
Girl,
hey,
those are good cars.
We were bumping in that 2008 Toyota Corolla. We we were bumping it. We had some good times. She had some good times. It actually went to, I sold it to, very reliable. I sold it to my younger cousin who drives it around now. So she's been making new memories in that car. But yeah, I think that was like probably the biggest thing that I said bye to was the car. But TBH, I don't miss driving. Same. I don't miss driving. I used to commute 2 hours a day in the car. And when I tell people here, especially like anyone that's like from a European country and that don't drive as much, they when I tell them 2 hours, they're like, 2 hours in the car every day? I'm like, yes.
Oh my gosh.
I know California traffic is like different level.
Even worse.
I mean, Houston traffic too, but
wow. Yeah. No, honestly, you guys, not driving has been incredible. In fact, I don't ever want to drive again.
Don't miss it. Don't miss it.
I will say, when I do visit home, and I visit home once a year, if not more, I did enjoy driving on the freeway. I mean, I enjoyed driving I actually drove from Fresno from San Diego to LA and back and forth because I have clients in LA. Yeah. And I was there in February, and I really did enjoy it. And I miss some elements of it, but for the most part, I love the metro here. The metro system is incredible. And just Barcelona, it's just such a walking city. Like, it's really built for walking. Like, if you're going to come here and you're going to go to like Sagrada Familia, you do not take a taxi. Take a metro. It will take you like 20 minutes on the metro, and it will take you 45 in a taxi. And it's awful. The driving is not, it's just not the thing here. Yeah. Well,
Yeah. When you live in a city like this, it's more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just, it makes more sense to just take the public transportation or walk. Yeah. Sometimes we end up walking too, if it's like maybe the same amount of time, whether you walk or take public transportation. Exactly. But I will say this, although I don't miss driving 2 hours in the car every day, I do sometimes find myself wanting to be able to drive here when I want to do like a little like a Costa Brava moment, because you have the Costa Brava right here. It's kind of more ideal to have a car when you want to go to the Costa Brava.
Yeah, but when you want to borrow or drive and go to Costa Brava, which we should do this. Yeah. There's an app called Get Around. And I've done it.
I haven't heard of this. Oh yeah,
it's called Get Around, and basically it's cars that are for rent by the hour. So people use them to move. It's actually pretty cool. I did it when I went to Andorra with a couple girlfriends during the holidays, and we rented like a nice SUV. It was for the weekend, probably like 150 euros. It wasn't bad. And we drove up to Andorra. We had a car around Andorra, which is a beautiful like mountain town, snowing. It was so fun. Yeah. But yeah, we had a car, and then we came back, and you take photos, you park it back in its little spot, and that's it. And it's really that easy. And you can borrow it even for like 6 hours. Yeah. It's if you're moving apartments, like you'll see people on the metro with like their suitcases and moving their plants and stuff. And I will never do that.
The IKEA bags that you see on the metro and the bus.
For people like moving apartments. Yeah. It's so crazy. Yeah. So I wouldn't do that, but I will definitely be renting a car. It's so much nicer. But yeah, Get Around. So now you know. You download the app because it is really, really good. It's really inexpensive. Like you can get a car for a day for like 40 euros, which is nice.
That is pretty nice.
If you want to go to Costa Brava, pick up the car at like 9 a.m. and then drop it off by 10 p.m. and it's 40 euros.
That's pretty good. That's good to know.
It's not bad.
It's key.
Yeah. So I guess let's see, what other topics can we touch on for you really quickly here? Okay, let me talk about the taxes for a second. I know that's something that's like weighs heavily. There's a lot
especially for you as a business owner.
Yeah, as a business owner, I will say, yes, I'm paying taxes in the United States. Now you do get a lot of tax credits, which is wonderful. And make sure you have a really good tax person. I have a pretty good one here. And yeah, I'm paying in both places. I am technically paying more taxes than I was in the United States, but I will guarantee you that it's worth it. I've seen a lot of like on Facebook groups of people wanting to move, and they're like, that I left Europe because I couldn't deal with the taxes. And it's like, when you think about it though, it's you're paying for the lifestyle. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I really wanted to move here. Yeah. The happiness tax is what I call it. And just kind of, that's how I really looked at it. And one thing that really is inspiring is looking at the elderly people here. They're so mobile.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. They're so mobile. Yeah. They're so happy, so communicative. Like, they all have each other. They're like groups of old people. having coffee in the mornings, or like
Yeah.
Park Ciudad, like they're dancing
Yeah.
in the park, and I mean, old, like 70,
Yeah.
80, you know, and they're
Yeah.
just vibrant and really living their life.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things is going to the beaches and seeing like just 2, 3 older women, topless, of course,
Yeah.
you know, just hanging out the beach for the day. And just
Living the
that's so
life.
rare to see. You know,
Yeah.
you don't in the United States, I don't know a lot of like older people that like
No.
have large
No.
groups of friends.
Yeah.
Here you see it. Just the other day I was walking behind like 6 older ladies, and they're all like latched on their arms, and they're just
Yeah.
like walking from lunch, and it was so sweet.
So
And I was like,
cute.
I want to be like that. You know,
Yeah.
I think community is so important.
Yeah.
And you know, we've all seen that documentary, Live to 100, and it's about like the blue zones and whatnot. And there's something really true about that. What the Okinawa, I think,
Okinawa,
episode.
Sardinia also is
Yes,
a blue zone, but
there's quite
Okinawa,
a few. But Okinawa, like they really touched on the community. And there's something really to that. And I just think it's one of the most beautiful things about living in Spain. It's so inspiring, and it's how I want to age.
Yeah.
And people always ask me, they're like, do you see yourself moving back? And like, I don't, you know, I really don't. And it's only because I moved my life here. I didn't move my life here to move back, you know, and I know I could whenever I wanted to, but the truth is I'm not going to. I really am happy here. I found a version of myself that I really love. And just the other night I was with my girlfriend, and I was like, I really love who I am right now. And I don't think I've ever said that in my life, but I really, really do.
Yeah.
How about you?
Which part?
I guess, how do you feel? I mean, obviously you're younger, but you're younger, but like seeing the community here, the third spaces, like what inspires you about living here, and do you see yourself moving back ever?
Okay, got it. I will say, agreed with you on the elderly people thing. That was, I think, aside from everything else, like public transportation and lifestyle, that was one of the things that really stood out to me when I had first ever came here in 2018, because you really don't see older people socialize in the way that they do here, just like sitting at the park benches, having a coffee, walking in the streets. Like they're just there all day, and it's so nice, and it's really comforting. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's really comforting and inspiring to see elderly folks live a very to live a life even at an older age. And again, I'm saying this because in Texas, like in the US in general, perhaps, like we don't really see that as much. I think it's more behind closed doors, like in the retirement homes and things like that. But I think there was to that movie that you were talking about, I think they make that point in there that as you get older, having community and socializing in that way, even at an older age, helps people with their longevity.
Yes. And you know what's interesting that you brought up retirement homes? I don't think I've seen one here.
So they do have them.
They do have them. Okay.
But they're just always outside.
They're always outside.
I like to say, like, the old people here run these streets. Like they stay in the streets.
They really do.
They're more in the streets more than me.
Yeah.
At a 20-something.
Last night, actually, I went to a rave, to see Honey Dijon. And I was dancing with my girlfriend, and I had these disco ball basically on my wrist. And I was like dancing and like all the lights, and older ladies, like, I mean, 60s, 70s years old, were at this rave, and they were like, I love your lights, and like dancing with us, speaking to me in Spanish, and just dancing around us. And it's so cool to see. And like, they're with their girlfriends. And that's the thing. There's no real rules here. It's just the rule is to live, you know, really live.
Yeah.
People don't, the conversations aren't about work or about stress. And that's the other thing. I feel like I'm just like way less stressed than I ever used to be in my entire life.
Yeah.
But aside from the stress, the health, the thing that really inspired me about moving to Spain was I loved how I felt every time I was here. And I was like, I have more energy. I look better. The inflammation in my body is gone. Like, I've lost so much weight. Like, I just feel better in my skin. And when I actually decided to move here, like, I will tell you, 2 years in, I just don't think that I could tell you. My sleep is amazing. I don't have stress. I have some stress. I'm human, but there's stressful moments. But like, I'm not stressed in the same way, right? And like, I'm just genuinely happy. The funniest thing is that I I would watch Netflix like every single night. And when I was living in California, I haven't, well, I can't even get through the last episode of Euphoria.
I know, we were just talking about that. I was like, girl, you need to watch the last episode of Euphoria.
I haven't even had time to watch it because I'm like dancing in my living room or like out at the, writing in my journal in the square 100 meters from my house. So it's like
the structure of life. Like,
it's just so different.
I think in the U.S. it's like work, come home, dinner, watch a TV show, sleep. Here, that repeat. Structure doesn't exist so much. You're finished with work, you do whatever, you go to the gym or you go meet out with friends a lot of times, like, I think, I definitely don't watch nearly as much like TV shows. Yeah, for sure.
Just sit and watch TV. Like, that's rare. Yeah. And trust me, you have your moments, especially right now. Right now it's July in Barcelona, and it is hot. This year has been crazy. So I have been spending a little bit more time in home, but still just the person that I am. I find myself journaling more. Right. I'm definitely doing yoga more. Yeah. And just being like really introspective. And I'm constantly trying to figure out ways like how to better myself, facing just the ugly parts of myself, right? The shadow work has been happening for sure. The ugly parts of myself that only I know about, right? And really wanting to make a change. And that's just wonderful. I just feel inspired. So yeah, hence this podcast of That's Why I'm Spanglish. That's why I'm Spanglish.
That's why I'm Spanglish.
But yeah, so we actually, I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. Like I said, there's so much more to come. Like, trust me.
This was only like, we barely scratched the surface. Oh no, hold on, the light. Let me turn it back on. I think it has like an automatic shut off. Like now that
does it?
I think it does.
No, it might be dead.
No, because I had it charging.
No. Oh, okay. Fuck, that's annoying. We got to fix that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The setting. We'll resume.
We only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But
we only scratched the surface.
We only scratched the surface. There's so many funny parts, scary parts. I'll leave you with this. So, ladies, I don't know how many of you have been not having good experience dating in the United States. Myself, I'll admit it's not that we love you men of the United States. You're all gorgeous and hot, and I miss you all. But I gotta tell you, I will say, I'm died again. Is that longer?
No, it's not longer.
Oh, here, this one. Oh, damn. Oh. Okay. So, ladies, let me get real about something. If you've dating in the United States, look, I actually miss American men. Like, you all are gorgeous and you speak my language, which I love. But the truth is, dating in Europe has been incredible. Now, dating in Barcelona, I haven't done a lot of dating here, but I did meet someone on the dance floor in Croatia from France, and he actually doesn't speak any English, and we've been together for a year. So that's a story for another time. But I will tell you, just to leave you with that, stay tuned, because you are going to hear some of the best stories, real stories. We're not going to give you any fluff, because the truth of the matter is I really feel like the world right now needs real hard truths and reality of like what it's like to make this move.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I 100% agree. So
that's why we're Spanglish.